إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم، وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما باركت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. There is no doubt that the life of any human being goes through long periods of difficulties, ordeals, and tests. The volume of these adversities in a human life could be so tremendous that could in turn lead into hopelessness and despair. But the book of Allah Azza wa Jal and the sunnah of His beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam teach us that hopelessness and despair are synonymous with disbelief, lack of confidence, and being astray. While the legitimate and positive hope, and I want to underline this description of hope as legitimate and positive because we'll come to explain it, while the legitimate and positive hope is synonymous with in confidence with Allah and believing in Allah Azza wa Jal. In the first context where Allah Azza wa Jal equalizes between hopelessness and the lack of faith or the disbelief in Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah Azza wa Jal tells us in the Quran, وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ وَلِقَائِهِ أُولَٰئِكَ يَئِسُوا مِنْ رَحْمَتِهِ وَأُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. Those who reject the signs of Allah and the meeting with Him in the hereafter, it is they who shall despair of my mercy, it is they who shall suffer a most grievous penalty. Allah Azza wa Jal also tells us on the tongue of Yaqub alayhi salam, Israel or Jacob, when his sons came back to him from supposedly Egypt and told him that their brother, the youngest brother, was kept as a captive. We know the story in the Quran. This happened after decades of their claim that Yusuf alayhi salam was killed and eaten by a wolf. So now they come to him and they tell him this supposedly, the other son supposedly named Benjamin. The Quran doesn't tell us the name, Benjamin, but let's say his name is X. They come to him and they say the other son is kept captive, is gone. So what does Yaqub alayhi salam tell them? He tells them, يَا بَنِيَّ اذْهَبُوا فَتَحَسَّسُوا مِن يُوسُفَ. He starts with Yusuf, that who was supposedly eaten and killed decades ago according to their claim. فَتَحَسَّسُوا مِن يُوسُفَ وَأَخِيهِ وَلَا تَيْأَسُوا مِن رَوْحِ اللَّهِ إِنَّهُ لَا يَيْأَسُ مِن رَوْحِ اللَّهِ إِلَّا الْقَوْمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. Oh my sons, go and inquire about Yusuf, not the second son. Go and inquire about Yusuf and his brother. He kept his faith always, or maintained his faith all the time that Yusuf is still alive, even after decades, despite their claims. Go and inquire about Yusuf and his brother and never give up hope of Allah's soothing mercy. Truly, no one despairs of Allah's soothing mercy except those who have no faith. Now, in the context where Allah Azza wa Jal equalizes between despair and being astray, Allah tells us by way of Ibrahim alayhi salam. When the angels came to Ibrahim to give him the glad tidings that he is going to have Ishaq, Isaac. Now he makes the argument, the counter argument. How could this happen? I'm a very old man. My wife is barren, according to him. So how could this happen? So they asked him, have you despaired from the mercy of Allah? And his answer to them was, قَالَ وَمَنْ يَقْنَطُ مِنْ رَحْمَةِ رَبِّهِ إِلَّا الضَّالُّونَ. And he said, who despairs of the mercy of his Lord but such as go astray? As for the one who truly believes in Allah, for the one who truly believes that Allah is the creator, that Allah is the provider, that Allah is the sustainer, that Allah who provides security, and Allah who can withdraw it, and that Allah who's capable of everything and anything, for such a person, he or she, they will never despair from the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal, no matter how bad their situation is. Allah Azza wa Jal tells us in the Quran, قُلْ يَا عِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ جَمِيعًا إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ. Say, O my servants who have transgressed against their souls, despair not of the mercy of Allah, for Allah forgives all sins, for He is forgiving, most merciful. Therefore, such hope is not only legitimate and positive, and again, I did not get to the definition of, or what do I mean by legitimate and positive when we're describing hope. But to continue now until, or to build the case until to get there, we need to understand that such hope is not only legitimate and positive, but rather we as humans are commanded by Allah Azza wa Jal to maintain hope. Actually, it is by definition of our creation. It is by nature of a human being that we always look for what is better, that we always aspire something better, that we always try to emerge from an ordeal, that we always try to change a situation or dynamics to better ones. So this is part of our nature. This is what we are commanded. Because otherwise, if this is not part of our nature, not part of our instinct, we will have a real problem, because a desperate person, if we will all, as humans, as mankind, be desperate by definition, then we are closer to dead, disabled or paralyzed people. The people who are incapable of many things, or of most of the things, or maybe of anything. So we always have to maintain this hope. Now here we come, where we come to the distinction between a legitimate and positive hope and an illusionary and delusionary hope, or the hope that Allah refers to in the Quran as a false hope. A false hope. Allah tells us in the Quran, ذَرْهُمْ يَأْكُلُوا وَيَتَمَتَّعُوا وَيُلْهِهِمُ الْأَمَلُ فَسَوْفَ يَعْلَمُونَ. Leave them alone to enjoy the good things of this life and to please themselves. Let false hope amuse them, soon will knowledge undeceive them. What is the false hope that by contrast will help us define a legitimate and positive hope? A false hope is when someone thinks that he or she are entering paradise without even doing anything to earn it. They think that just because I believe in Allah, just because I wish for His mercy, I'm going to be in paradise. Well, can Allah do that? Yes, but that's an exception. That's not the rule. A false hope is when someone doesn't have a job and he or she says, you know, if Allah wants me to have a job, then a job will come to me. Someone will come to offer me a job. That's a false hope. A false hope when somebody is sick, or you've seen this pastor who just died a few days ago, who was killed by a snake bite, because he believed that the Bible, or the true believers, quote unquote, are not affected by the poisons of a snake. He was killed by a snake bite. Did you watch the news? That's a false hope. Even if a Muslim does it, that's a false hope. Because there are reasons. We're created rational. A false hope when you think that help will come to you without you doing anything. And by contrast, a legitimate and positive hope is the hope that necessitates action. That requires that me and you do something about it. That we try ourselves to change our ordeal, to emerge from it. That requires that we don't become hostages of our pessimism, that we don't become hostage of our despair, that we don't become hostage of our situations and circumstances, where we always try to emerge from any bad situation or any ordeal that afflicts us. That's a positive hope, when we do our best, when we try to change the situation, and then we always maintain, or at the same time we maintain our hope and belief in Allah Azza wa Jal. So that's where we contrast a false hope from a legitimate and positive hope. A false hope is when you think that help is coming to you regardless. that you're going to be pardoned by Allah regardless, when you think that you'll be saved by Allah regardless of what I do and what you do. And the positive hope and legitimate hope is we know that we have to do something to change the situation, no matter how little and how marginal means we have at our disposal. But you know, I always believe in Allah. Some people have cancer. Well, if you ask most doctors, especially if it's in advanced stages, they will tell you it's hopeless. You came late. But we are still required to seek what? Treatment. If you say, I'm not going, it is as if you're killing yourself. If you say, if Allah wants to save me, then He can save me. I don't have to go through this painful radiation and treatment. Then you're killing yourself. That's a false hope. First, you do what you're supposed to do. You seek the treatment that you need. You do your best. You seek the best possible means out there for you. And then you think about, what can I do? Or then you think about, and then at the same time, you maintain your hope in Allah Azza wa Jal. At the same time, while I'm doing something to change it, I maintain my belief in Allah, my hope in Allah, my faith in Allah. Otherwise, I'll be falling under this premise of false hope that we are warned against. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us in a hadith narrated by Fudalah ibn Ubayd, where he says, ثلاثة لا تسأل عنهم. 3 people don't bother with. Don't even care about them, because they have failed themselves. رجل نازع الله عز وجل رداءه فإن رداءه الكبرياء وإزاره العزة. A person or a man disputed Allah's almighty pride and glory. And the second man, ورجل شك في أمر الله, and a man doubted the existence of Allah Azza wa Jal, or despaired from, or yes, doubted the existence of Allah. And the third person, وَالْقَنُوطُ مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ, and the man who despaired from Allah's mercy. Those 3 kinds of people, don't worry about them, don't bother with them. The man who thinks, or the person who thinks that he's above Allah Azza wa Jal, that he has more pride than Allah Azza wa Jal, that he should be glorified more than Allah Azza wa Jal, this guy is a psycho. He could be a leader of a superpower. He could be an emperor. He could be anything. But he's moron. Don't worry about him. And a man who thinks, of course man or woman, who doubt Allah, who doubt His existence, who doubt His ability, who doubt His strength, His power. Again, what can you do for such a person? And a man or woman who always despair and always in a process or an endeavor of depression or despair and hopelessness, who think that there is nothing that can be done. Those people were warned from. Actually, it is not speaking about the other person, because many people think that, oh, the Prophet is warning us of the other. No, no. He's warning us of becoming one of, quote unquote, the others. So it is directed to me and you, not to fall into such category. But our focus is those who despair. And again, as I said, brothers and sisters, a true believer will understand. This is what I was speaking about in Arabic, not the same subject, but I was in my Arabic khutbah, I said that we always have to maintain this balance between spirituality and between the needs of our bodies and what we call the material life that we live. We need to maintain the balance. Same logic applies to this one, that we need to maintain the balance between what we should do, what we can do, and between maintaining our faith in Allah Azza wa Jal, that Allah then will help us. when I do my best, when I try the best possible that I can, when I try every possible way, when I try to gather all of the means that I have in my life, that I have in my disposal, it is then when you can say, you know what? I am engaged now in a positive and legitimate hope. I have done my best. Now my best is maybe nothing. It's very marginal. Maybe it will not change anything in reality. But then the faith of Allah in Allah Azza wa Jal kicks in. That's where Allah can change the situation. And if He doesn't wish, then I'm still going to be rewarded for it. Rewarded in this life or in the hereafter. But for someone to say that I'm giving up, that's not good. And that's not enough. That's a false hope. The Quran gives us abundant of models of the prophets and believers who, though believed in Allah, maintained their hope in Allah Azza wa Jal, but yet they understood that such hope requires what? Requires action. Well, are you going to tell me that all of the prophets of Allah didn't believe that Allah could change the situation and all of their people could follow them if they wanted to follow or embrace Islam? Allah could have done that, right? Are you going to tell me that the prophets didn't understand that faith and belief in Allah is stronger and more powerful than anything else? They did, right? Yet they continued to call on their people. They have suffered, right? They have suffered. Some of them were killed. Others were tortured. Some others were expelled from the land. Why did they do that? Why did they sacrifice their lives, their happiness, decades and decades of their joy? They could have enjoyed their lives. Why did they do that? Why did Noah stay with his people calling on them for 950 years? Because he understood that hope and faith in Allah don't negate the need to work, the need to do something, even if this something in our calculation means nothing or equals nothing. So brothers and sisters, we need to apply these lessons in our lives. When we look at the example of Musa alayhi salam, we know the story when Musa and the children of Israel were chased by Pharaoh and his soldiers. When they were caught between the sea and between Pharaoh and the soldiers, what did his people tell him? Inna lamudrakun. It is over. When they saw the army of Pharaoh, فَلَمَّا تَرَاءَ الْجَمْعَانِ. Okay. When they saw the army of Pharaoh, they said, it is over. فَلَمَّا تَرَاءَ الْجَمْعَانِ قَالَ أَصْحَابُ مُوسَى إِنَّا لَمُدْرَكُونَ. It is over. We're sure to be overtaken. What did Musa tell them? قَالَ كَلَّا إِنَّ مَعِي رَبِّي سَيَهْدِينَ. Now it is where faith kicked in. قَالَ كَلَّا إِنَّ مَعِي رَبِّي سَيَهْدِينَ. By no means. Allah is with me, my Lord is with me, and He will protect us and He will guide me. But tell me, what was the options for Musa? Nothing. If they wanted to fight the army, there would have been a slaughterhouse, but the victims will be the children of Israel and Musa alayhi salam. But he still maintained his faith. And what did Allah tell him to do? To hit the sea with his rod, right? And it divided the sea. They walked into safety. The Pharaoh and the children, Pharaoh and the soldiers wanted to follow them. The water came back. They were drowned, right? Well, everybody says Allah saved him, but remember that Allah requires something from him in order to save him. And that is to hit the sea with his rod. So there was something required from Musa alayhi salam to do. Do you really believe that it was the rod that opened the sea and divided it? Was it? Was he sahir? Was he a sorcerer? Was it the power of that rod? It wasn't. What was it? It was the what? The power of Allah, right? But why did Allah require Musa to do that? Because Allah wanted to teach us a lesson. It is the wisdom that we have to extract from the Quran. From this example, that even if you think that what you have at your disposal is, you think of it or you view it as equals zero, you are still required to do that zero. You are still required to do the minimum that you can do. But it is your best given the circumstances. So brothers and sisters, don't ever despair, and at the same time don't ever hold into a false hope. Always balance between what I can do and between then my faith in Allah Azza wa Jal. Now, I will conclude with this. And I'm being very hopeful because I've done my best. Now, my best could equal zero. But here at Dar Al-Hijrah, they have a policy. And I see Brother Samir Abu Isa is there, sitting there like a hawk watching over. Now, we know that we have our fundraising dinner coming soon. It is on 6 p.m. You can see the date, March 2nd. We have our annual fundraising dinner. And Brother Samir told me, if you don't sell 75 tickets from this prayer, then I was worried about what after then will come, what will come after then. I said, they cannot lay me off. So what can they do? I said, maybe they will say, your reputation is gone now as a khatib. Maybe you shouldn't be allowed to go on the member again. And then I said, still I can go to other members, other manabers, and speak there. But then I remembered, then maybe we have a problem, all of us, starting with myself. In our understanding, when it comes to this balancing between our hope that we want a strong community, that we want to invest in the future of our generations, that we want to empower our religion of Islam in this country, and between our role in doing so. We could say, if Allah wills, He can do it. But then, when you balance and understand what is the legitimate and positive hope, you say, but what is my role? What is the bare minimum that I can do to effect such change? So I will ask you to please, let us inshallah show our understanding of the true faith, where we maintain a positive and legitimate hope, and make this a reality by selling 75 tickets. After we finish, it is $60 a ticket. $60 a ticket, $700 for a table. Please, let's do it quickly after the prayer. I'm sure we can do it. Not because the khatib was good. No. Consider my khutbah was like the rod of Musa alayhi salam. Means nothing. Could it open really the sea? No. My khutbah could it really open your hearts? I don't know. But I know that you understand this. You know the need. Let's do it inshallah. $60 right after the prayer. If you need more than one ticket, raise more than one finger. Like this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Quickly, let's do it inshallah. اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين وأذل الظلمة والظالمين. اللهم من أراد بهذا الدين خيرا فوفقه إلى كل خير ومن أراد به غير ذلك فخذه أخذ عزيز مقتدر. اللهم ارحمنا فوق الأرض وتحت الأرض ويوم العرض عليك يا أرحم الراحمين واجعلنا ممن تغفر لهم واجعلنا ممن يؤمن بك يا أرحم الراحمين. وأنت يا أخي أقم الصلاة.